least one person is dead and several others are injured.
Those intense wind gusts reached up to 71 miles per hour, knocking out power to at least 250,000 people in the Dallas County area alone.
That storm also knocking out power to hundreds of thousands at one of the city's major airports.
Inside the building, cars could be seen teetering on the edge. Urban search and rescue rushing to the scene.
The building itself has suffered multiple collapses in different areas.
All this caused by a ferocious, severe storm. Near hurricane-strength wind gusts at Dallas Love Field Airport, knocking out power to that major transportation hub.
What's up, everybody? How we doing tonight? June 10th, 2019, 1:12 a.m. And we got some stuff to talk about, especially Texas. In fact, that's what this is mostly going to be about. The situation with the crane collapse, the severe storm that basically shot down literally from Minnesota like a comet straight down through Texas, and it's continuing to do its thing here. We got a lot of stuff going on in West Texas right now, and it's starting to boil back into that south central area of Texas. But keep in mind, Dallas is up here. There was a very, very significant storm, hurricane force winds, as you heard in the intro, that, like I said, this thing came down quick, and we're going to show you that on our COD chart, which we got pulled up right here. You could just see this black mass over Texas right now. This is frame 200. This is exactly what's going on as we speak. But that is not what caused the crane collapse. In fact, let's just talk about that right off the bat. And to show you what I'm talking about, look up by Minnesota, and then you stretch it all the way down this way. In fact, what states did we actually cover here? We went through Minnesota, we clipped Iowa, we got Nebraska in there, Kansas definitely got hit hard, Oklahoma got hit hard, and then 18 hours afterwards, Oklahoma took the brunt of it, came down towards the east side of Texas. This is right when that storm came in that hit Dallas where that crane collapsed. Yeah, that thing came in very, very quickly. In fact, I have some other charts pulled up. This one we'll check out in a minute. These are plenty of articles out on this crane collapse. This was a pretty big deal, being that it was in a major city. There's the cell phone video of this thing falling down. Unfortunately, I cannot play it. This is about the best I can get for you. And that intro I showed you as far as showing you the extent of the damage. As the days go by, we'll learn more. We did learn of one death and multiple injuries due to it, which is actually not a good thing. Whenever there's death involved, that's never good, but for those numbers to be that low, that is a very good thing. You can see it's on basically every major news station you can think of. So we'll get these out of the way real quick so we can stay on topic here. But you could check out this radar here. This thing, again, you could see how it started here and then it launched. It was like a comet. I swear, that's the only thing that comes to mind to me when I'm looking at this situation. I hadn't had much time to dissect exactly what went on in the west here that allowed this to shoot down. I know there's a high pressure system up here, and eventually what's going to happen, we have a dip in the jet stream right now, which is allowing this weather to come up. And then we have a rise that's going on right now, which is allowing that Gulf and the Bahama region moisture to come right up into the U.S. There's a little bit of mess going on in Tennessee, Kentucky. The Carolinas got hit. Florida's definitely getting hit. If you want to follow a really good anchor on Twitter, he goes by Craig Setzer. He's an on-TV meteorologist. Very, very good at his job. He's all over Florida every single day. I recommend you check out his Twitter channel. Him and I go back and forth all the time with different parts of weather, being that I have family in Florida. But staying on topic here, we could see throughout the day this was a massive storm. It was forced down by a high-pressure system. And then as, like I said, the jet stream is coming up this way currently, that is going to change, which is actually going to allow the Northeast to cool down a little bit and have some decent weather. But that's going to come after the 11th and 12th. The 11th and 12th, we're going to get some severe weather up in the Northeast, which is actually part of this situation here. Now, this only goes to a certain point, which is current time. Again, you match it up to right now, current time. This is what Texas is going through right now. In my opinion, this storm system that's going on right now is much stronger than the one that came down from the north and hit Dallas and took that crane out, because this front was no joke. This thing, there were pictures sent in to me. I didn't get a chance to throw them together yet. I know this is a late stream I'm starting here, but had to get the word out. But you could see this thing coming. There was like a black wall moving from the south, or from the north to the south. And it's not rare, but it's not usual you get those straight down storms. They're usually swooping in this way, or they're coming through the Baja region like we usually speak about. And over the last couple of weeks, we watched the coasts of Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama all get slammed and flooded nonstop. And another thing with this system that we've been talking about is the Mississippi River. Yes, it is a ways to the east of this system, but that does not mean that this up here is not adding more fuel to this part of the Mississippi River. So it's going to be a common topic. It's going to be something we're talking about for probably the next couple months, but you can see the remnants of this storm after it came down through Oklahoma and then hit Dallas, which took that crane out. This is all now flowing to the east and will add more water into the Mississippi River, including this mess over here that, like I said, it got into the Gulf, powered back up, took over parts of Florida, and that's what they're dealing with now. And as we move forward in time, you just see these colors that are just, oh man, it's not something you want to see. We always talk about this. When you see these black colors, these clouds are so high up in the sky, and they're doing their thing up at 50, 60,000 feet up, and then the main source of that energy is being brought down to the ground, and that's why these storms are so severe, and you're getting these black clouds that just look like they're black holes from space. But over the last couple hours, in fact, the last hour, this is what I was looking at right here. Again, this is the one that took that crane out in Dallas a few hours ago when it was still daylight. And then as we moved into this situation, I figured this was going to dissipate and kind of roll off in this direction. But no, then we had something come out of Mexico. Like we speak about a lot of this system comes through the Baja region and then into Texas. And then we have this second explosion. And this one looks like it's going to widen out pretty far overnight. So this area is going to be under watch for at least the rest of tonight going into tomorrow morning. And then what's expected to happen is, which I'm going to show you on these other charts. You can even look at the lightning here. This was in the intro before, but I took off the sensor lines because they can get confusing. Basically, those sensor lines are just different stations that pick up each lightning strike. But these are live strikes right now, guys, and you can see we're kind of in that central part of Texas. Once again, you match it up with right here, you're getting most of your lightning right in this area. And I even pulled up Google Earth for us because I was reading some tweets earlier. As you can see, Dallas is right here. That first part of the storm came down that front, and they got hit hard with hurricane force winds. So we're talking 70-mile-an-hour plus winds. That will take down a crane. And as I said, there are Twitter videos out there, people posted of the crane coming down, the aftermath. And I actually wanted to point out a YouTuber who gave me permission, at least via his response comment. Here's his channel, James Munder. He put a great video out. Crane crashes down into Texas building full of people, and that is true. This building was full of people. It took out the parking garage. It took out basically the entire side of this building. So props to you, James Munder. You covered this great, awesome YouTube channel. Check this guy out. He does good work. And just to verify, there's my comment asking him if I could use part of his video. I'm not going to play any of it. I just wanted to show you that he has covered this story. And if you want some more detail on it, come to this channel, check it out. Great stuff. Anyway, with that said, check out some of these temperatures today. You could see this little dip here. This is part of the reason why this storm came down, and the heat is staying closer to the Gulf and to Mexico. We broke over 100 here in Southern California, 104 here. That was actually at 108 earlier today. So we're seeing these temperatures, which lead me to believe that the Santa Ana winds are going to be coming soon. I know that's more of a Southern California deal, but those winds do make it here, and that's fire territory, guys. So we're going to be moving right into fire. We do have a system moving in from the west that could bring some significant rain to parts of California, but California dries up very quick, especially when you're in the hundreds throughout the day. And in fact, if I refresh this, it might drop down a little bit. We'll see. And yes, we're at 93 degrees now, and then a good solid 84 in Southern California. But we got to understand we're in the dark now. That's still fairly warm for these areas. So any sort of wind, dryness is going to be a very big issue for California this year, especially Southern California, if and only if we continue to see these storms moving in from the west, which we have seen. We've seen a little bit of a downtick in that. But the temperatures you always want to look out for. Sierra Nevada mountains clearly are still highlighted with cooler weather. And you can see that temperature verifying that with the 60s in this area. We had 52. We actually had some snowfall in this area. I'm not sure exactly where it was, but it could have been here. 44 degrees as opposed to 93 over about a 500 mile distance. That's a big that's a big change in temperature, let's just say that. So we're still in that process where we're switching seasons. We're going from spring to summer, but we're still seeing 40 degrees in central U.S., and that is due to these systems that are moving in from the northwest and coming over Montana and areas like that, and then through the Rockies. We always see snow in the Rockies. But then once you get west, or east rather, of the Rockies, some of these temperatures should start warming up. So we're seeing snow one day, and then the next day we're seeing temperatures in the 80s and 90s. So it's hashtag bipolar weather in many different ways. So I have a couple other things I want to show you. We're going to keep this one a little short, being that it's so late. But for people in Texas, you got to be on your toes about this one. This is a very, very big storm. This is causing flooding. It's going to cause flooding throughout the night. There's a lot of it. So let's check out Tropical Tidbits real quick. You can see what I was talking about with that system that moved in through the Baja and part of Mexico and then into Texas, and that aided in what was going on now. So if you could see here, we're set on the 10th, which is current time right now. And as we move forward into the coming days, you could see a lot of that dips underneath. So when I was explaining that storm here, it looked to me like it was going to dissipate and kind of come under this way. Now, eventually that's going to happen, and it's hard to tell on this chart because they're not showing a lot of moisture. You get kind of those the severe highlights here in Mexico. They're not showing many over Texas, which doesn't really make sense to me because, well, I guess that does right there because this is current time. This is the area of watch right now. It's more near Georgetown, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Georgetown is the area to watch, and then it's going to be Houston unless it's already gotten to that area. Here on radar scope, we could see real time what we're dealing with at the moment. And while I set this up for you guys, I'll check out the chat. I haven't looked quite yet. These green areas are flash flood warnings. And then you could see right here, this is the radar I'm currently using. We got Spofford right there. We got Brackettsville right now just getting slammed with a lightning and a severe cell. And another big cell down here by no pun intended, radar base. And then we got Elm Creek, Eagle Pass, Edson Road, and Rosta South. Now, this is a cell in its own. They haven't named it. They did name it. There it is, Z3. This will soon have a line with it with a time frame. When we're by Commando up here, you can call this cell M5. And again, These lines are here to show you where these cells are going to move into, and you can see they have a southern trajectory. Again, that is because of what's going on with our jet stream. Our jet stream is pushing everything way down here, but eventually, like I said, that's going to move over, and that's going to give the Northeast a break. But let's move forward in this version of Tropical Tidbits and see what we have in store. So once this begins to leave Texas, you see it drops down into the Gulf here, kind of rimming the east coast of Mexico, swinging into the area of Cancun. All that's going to do is refuel this, and then you see that one spot right there over Florida. Actually, that was Georgia, it looks like. Did we get a spot over Florida? It does turn into a low-pressure system, so it is going to come down this way. It's going to become a low pressure. We're at 1,012. This is going into tomorrow, probably within the next 10 to 12 hours. So panhandle of Florida, northern Florida, basically where this line cuts off about 100 miles north of Lake Okeechobee. That's going to be a significant area to watch, including Georgia. Now, going forward, you could see that low pressure actually gets bigger, covering more of Georgia. And then we're going to be dealing with South Carolina, North Carolina. And then this is going to happen. We're going to have a low pressure system right over the Great Lakes, which we never like to see. Lake effect systems we don't like seeing because what they do is they are counterclockwise rotation. The Great Lakes are big enough to actually influence weather and strengthen weather. And if you take a look at these lines here, this is a counterclockwise spin. So what it's doing is it's pulling moisture from warmer areas, like the Bahamas here, for example. Sometimes it'll pull moisture straight from the Gulf across Florida, like we kind of just saw, and it's a fuel source, and it's just going to keep circling the Northeast. This is the 14th. This is 4 days away, so this is something we can certainly talk about and almost rely on happening. A little while ago, there were some severe spots in Pennsylvania. They have seemed to go away, being that the low pressure system has moved to the north and to the west a little bit. It was more centralized over the western part of New York, near the Erie and Buffalo and Watertown areas. But this low pressure system, now that it's under 1,000 and with these tighter rings around it, is pretty concerning for the Northeast as far as rain. We may have some severe winds involved with this, but just look at where it begins. You see the low pressure, it starts here, we had the one down here, and then they both meet at the same time. For the most part this summer, or this spring rather, we've been seeing the systems come down this way, and then we come up through this way, and this would be ground zero. And now things are kind of moving to the east, as you can see. We have this top system here as we move into the 12th. By that time, this system in Texas has already made it across Florida and Georgia, South Carolina, and then you're going to see them meet up right there. And this is also territory for nor'easter. I'm not calling nor'easter only because the last few times we've seen this kind of pile up and show that 9 symbol, it has not been called a nor'easter. But when you get these rings this tight and you get pressure below 1,000, anything's possible. So we're going to look into this over the next few days. And it's just when you see those counterclockwise spins over the Northeast like that, especially when they're going over the Great Lakes, that's never something you really want to see because you could see the moisture being pulled out of the Gulf. And anytime you have warm moisture being pulled up into warm areas, hopefully the cool down in the Northeast will keep this at bay as we move into the 15th, but there's a lot more to look at. So before I get too far ahead of myself, let's just make sure we covered Texas and we know exactly what the deal is there. So once again, for those of you that just joined the room, in fact, let me get back over to Google really quick on the tablet and see what some of you are saying. Oh, hey, guy, Virginia Beach here. Show that comment. Sorry about that, buddy. I'm just now checking the comments, so. What do we got here? What's up, Christopher? How you doing, buddy? We got Ray Roberts here. How are you, bud? We got Shanna. How you doing? Trying to play catch up. Hey, that cyclone is up. Okay, cool. Definitely going to check on that. Jacob Johnson, possibly, yes. So, like I said, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. What I want to kind of show you is how this developed. This is over the last 18 hours to current time. Obviously 200, frame 200 being current time, and just look at the west part of Texas. That was just a refresh. Look at it. This is not good at all. And when you line it up with the lightning, you could see this is very severe weather going on right now. And again, that moved down through Georgetown. I was reading some tweets earlier that were showing me that this was coming right through Georgetown. And if I can line this up correctly, we'll be able to see that. In fact, yeah, some of these lines are starting to shoot off in all other directions. That's due to a lot of things. There's an upflow from the Gulf that's always constantly coming. We have a west to east trade wind going all the way across Texas, or Mexico through Texas, through the Gulf, and on through Florida and to the Atlantic Ocean. So we have that to look at. If I back out here, you can kind of get an idea. That wind kind of comes along this area, and then when you get the upflow from the Gulf, more times than none, when you get the right situations, that's why we get our tornadoes. But we have a mix of upflow from the Gulf plus a shot down from the jet stream bowing like this. That's why this system shot down from Minnesota, Minnesota all the way down through Oklahoma. Definitely did a number on Oklahoma, and then that in turn is what happened in Dallas and caused that crane collapse. And now as it came down, it began to dissipate before getting to Houston and kind of shot to the west. And that also interacted with a system from Mexico, and now we have this mess on our hands here. So you could see all the lightning going on. We got these deep colors right around this area here, 43 to 47 dBz. Those are fairly strong storms, guys, so we want to keep an eye on it. There's no severe boxes, which is a good thing. In fact, the only two areas of watch in as far as severe and flash flooding is Edwards, Texas, and then Edwards and Real. So these are neighboring areas, and you could see, I don't know, I feel like Eagle Pass will either see a severe storm box around it with a yellow box and or oh man, I'm stumbling over my words already. It's got to be late. It's 1:30, that's why. The flash flood warnings, I believe you will see down in this area. The border's right here, so they may not show the border in Mexico. They'll show the border more in Texas. But just by the looks of these cells themselves, like this right here, this red you see, that's some pretty severe weather. This is actually a named cell right here. This is cell Y5. This one's going to live about another hour. So yeah, they are moving fast but slow, if that makes sense. It's a slow crawling storm, multiple storms. Each one of these lines is a different cell. So basically, I'm just waiting to see when they're going to box this area, because just those colors alone right there show me severe. And usually when there's severe weather, you got that yellow box around it. No tornado warnings at the moment in Texas. If you guys remember, this was an entire separate situation with the tornado weeks, basically. It was 14 to 16 days of tornadoes, and that was all flowing upwards. And now we have this storm that is coming all the way down from Minnesota straight down like this. That's how the jet stream works. The jet stream is an amazing thing, and it totally changes everything that goes on around us. But long story short, guys, Texas is getting slammed right now. And let's name off some of these areas. Let's see if anyone's in these areas. We got Brackettsville, Spotsford, Quemdo, radar base we already recognized. We got Laughlin Air Force Base. They're just getting out of this right now. Del Rio got hit hard. Lakeview got hit hard. You could see this is when they backtrack. Let me pause really quick so I can kind of explain this a little better. And we'll go back to the first frame here. So you could see how Laughlin Air Force Base here got hit. The density of the storm was in this area. This is what passed right over that Air Force Base. And then it was Dallas, I believe, Love Field Airport is what lost power in Dallas. That was the name of the airport. So yeah, the cell that came down into Dallas actually took out power in the entire airport at this time right here. So again, you match this up and you get to Dallas. The entire airport lost power, and then the wind in turn took out that crane, taking the life of one woman, I believe, injuring multiple people. Again, that will be more assessed tomorrow when they can actually, get in there and start cleaning up. It is dark now. I don't think there is much rain going on in Dallas. I could be mistaken. Again, I jumped on here because I wanted to show you, excuse me, what this cell was doing down in the San Antonio, well, actually west of San Antonio, compared to this chart we always use, and just this color here. It's just unbelievable. And the one thing that is sticking out in my mind right now is just how it happened, and that began again. I know I'm repeating myself, but this thing shot down so quickly, and I believe that is why Oklahoma took such a hard hit today, and then Dallas took that hard hit with the wind gusts of over 70 miles an hour. That's hurricane force, and that is why that crane came down 100%. You have a crane up on a building that's already about 30 to 40 stories high, and then a crane that's another 10 to 12 20 stories sometimes. The wind is much higher up in those areas, and I make that a something I like to talk about when we're looking at vent to sky. When you're following hurricanes, you can be 10 meters off the ground, or you can switch the setting to 100 meters. You switch it to 100 meters, and you add another 50 miles an hour to a storm, and you can really confuse people with that. So the wind strength is very important. The higher you are when you're in a storm, the higher the wind speeds are going to be, unless, of course, you're dealing with a tornado. We're not in that situation now. This is a whole different system, whole different situation. But you can just see how this thing shot down so quickly. You can even follow the hours here. In fact, let's do it. By the time it reached the border or just crossed the border of Oklahoma, we're at 12:51 UTC. That would be 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours it took for this main part of the system to shoot through the entire state of Oklahoma. And then by 1816 UTC is when we started seeing, actually a little before that, right around there, we'll say 1630, we'll round it off. It hit that edge border of eastern Texas right before Dallas. And then within 1 hour, 2 hours, within an hour and a half, 45 minutes, that speed, that 70-mile-an-hour wind made it to Dallas, took that crane out, caused power outages for hundreds of thousands of people. That was just this storm, or this part of the storm alone, not counting what's going on right now. So we could be pushing 300,000 without power. In fact, there was an article where they're actually cutting power in some areas in order to avoid the damage that a power outage would do of the electrical boxes exploding or power line damage. They shut the power off in advance in case that stuff happens. It's an easier fix. But again, we're leaving people without power in the middle of the night during major storms. So it's like they gotta make an educated decision there, and it's very hard when you're dealing with families and people that need power at night, especially during storms like these. These are major storms, guys. This storm right here is the size of some of our states up in the Northeast, at least. Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut. This storm is bigger than those states alone. Texas is a big place, so it doesn't look like it's a huge storm here. But if you were to put this thing anywhere in the smaller states, we're covering multiple states with this one system. So just, oof. That's a rough one there, and it's going to be rough for the rest of the night for them, for sure. All right, let's check out some comments. Sorry, guys, I don't have many moderators tonight. I'm going to backtrack and see what everyone's saying. Hello from San Antonio. Pablo, how are you, buddy? How is it in San Antonio? That's scary. Yes, thank you. They're safe. I hope everyone's safe. Thank you, Salvis. Hit that thumbs up, please. That would be great. I'm glad you guys are helping each other out in the comments section. I always love seeing that. Yeah, Carano, that is super dark. That's when you get those high clouds way up in the air, and the the surface is getting the brunt of it. The higher those clouds are, the stronger the storm is on the ground, that's for sure. And again, just so you guys know, we're about a minute behind as far as time. So what you're hearing now was actually a minute ago, so just bear with me with the comments for now. Space Carnage, howdy. I just saw your comment pop up, so if you want to get an idea of the time difference there, I just saw your comment. Mass Destruction, I just saw yours right before that. Howdy from Apache Junction, Arizona. Rebecca, it was hot there today, huh? Yes, Catherine, we are supposed to get nailed tomorrow. Tomorrow, even possibly going into the 12th. In fact, we can take a look at that right now. So this is set for June 10th. So this is what's going to happen for Pennsylvania tomorrow. I know it's totally off topic from Texas, but you know me. The delay is that bad? Well, yeah, I don't know why. It could be the internet deal. It could be this system moving in. I know I usually get some internet issues when a system is moving in, but there's a little more time than I thought before this comes in. So it says June 10th, first 6 hours, which we're in right now. We're in the second hour of June 10th, at least in the East Coast. So by hour 12, it's going to be moving up into the northeast of PA. So most of PA will be in rain within the next 8 hours, I would say. Nothing super severe. And in fact, the severe areas are out in the Atlantic and then up in Canada and above the Great Lakes at that point. But quickly you see the rain moves in by the end of the 10th, which is later today. The beginning of tomorrow, you could see how dense these greens get, even though there's no severe yellows there. That's a lot of heavy rain. So yes, we are going to get some significant rain. I don't see as much as severe winds going on, or we would have that low pressure system with the rings around it. But as we move forward, you could see the severe weather does start happening out in the main area. There's still a little time for that to change because, like I said, as of a few hours ago, there was a severe strip over Pennsylvania that went basically from Pittsburgh across into northeast PA. That has since disappeared. This low pressure system yesterday was down in this area. That could have had something to do with it. The closer you are to the low pressure system, the more effects you will feel from it. But to answer your question, yes, starting around midday tomorrow, if not a little sooner, it's going to start raining in PA and most of the East Coast states. We're talking Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, parts of West Virginia certainly, Chesapeake Bay, you're very much inside this, New Jersey, Long Island, you name it. Northeast, definitely getting a rain day, maybe 2 rain days out of this. And then as you can see, by Tuesday the 11th, it kind of gets pushed out by this high pressure system. This is the exact same high pressure system that is currently pushing this storm down into Texas. You could see the H right here. That is why you're not seeing much moisture in this area. It's a high pressure system. Things move around high pressure systems, which is why I'm always talking about the Bermuda Atlantic high pressure system out in the ocean and how things move around it. Now, in fact, there it is right there. Let's talk about it. Here is the Bermuda Atlantic pressure bubble. Now, when we're looking at hurricanes, everything moves around this bubble because it's a pressure bubble. Low pressure systems move around high pressure. And you can see that's a little rare right there, that low pressure system there. But as you move forward, you could see moisture moves around and bows with the high pressures. You could see the low pressures are all underneath the high pressure bubble. So as you move forward in time, there are warps in the high pressures, and you can get multiple high pressures, but they never or rarely enter the high pressures. We could get a break right here because you get this one broken off, then you get a separate one here. That would allow a low pressure to come down in here. It's rare, but it happens. But you can see that closes up very quickly. In fact, it actually eats up that low pressure system. One pops up right here, and then you see the high pressures surrounds it, high pressure, and then boom, eats it up and it's gone. So the Bermuda Atlantic bubble is a very big player in our weather, especially this time of year. And it's always in a counterclockwise motion. We're in the northern hemisphere. It's counterclockwise. Yes, I see this right here. This is not showing up within a 5-day chart or a 2-day chart, but this could potentially be a Pacific hurricane if these things stay still. But again, back to the bubble here, you can see all the weather that comes off of the west coast of Africa. It follows that bubble down. It keeps it pressured down right at the equator. In fact, I'll back up and show you again. And look, it just follows that line. You could see how it follows it. Any break in the line, you could see it comes up a little closer. But for the most part, all it does is circle that high pressure bubble in the Atlantic Ocean. And that is why the hurricanes that come off the west coast through the Cape Verde Islands tend to go right through the Leeward Islands, or they will jump above them depending on where this pressure is. If this pressure were to pull back a little bit, that would allow the system to come up. Any hurricane that comes off the west coast of Africa, or any hurricane in the northern hemisphere for that matter, always naturally wants to shoot north. The only thing that keeps it from doing that are these pressures, these high pressures. And that's why we had those issues with Irma and Maria and their expectations of them shooting north. But what happened is this pressure bubble extended outward. It kept those storms down low like you see here. These storms can't move up into this high pressure unless there's a release in that pressure. And that's why these storms are staying in the South Caribbean right now, which is a good and bad thing. One, because it's away from us, but bad because now they have time to sit there and brew and collect and possibly become invests. That's the time of year we're in, and that looks pretty serious moving into June 23rd. Yes, it is 13 days away, 2 weeks out, but it's not something we can't just pass up on and not look at. That's pretty severe right there. So, as we move into the next 2 weeks, we have to be certainly looking at the South Caribbean. We need to be looking at the Gulf as a whole because of Texas is getting slammed left and right. And if you notice something else that I forgot to mention, after all this stuff that went on, you're going to notice the shoot down from north to south here. Right there is when this shot down to Texas, okay? So that was the beginning of the 9th, and then as we move into today, there it is right there. You kind of miss it. It's hard to see on this chart because this measures really high pressure systems. If we go to this chart, it's a lot easier to see, but you see as it shot down into Texas, that's what happened. It's a high pressure system that forced it downwards. Same exact situation that goes on in the ocean. Hopefully that made sense to you that are trying to figure out this high pressure, low pressure situation. Butler County, thank you. Yes, you're welcome. Winds look dumping into the Maryland and Delaware. Yes, Maryland and Delaware will certainly be part of this right here. And this is going to be June 10th going into the 11th and the 12th. This very well may stall out and still be over the Northeast and the 12th. I know it's showing by the 12th. It comes out this way. But that's going to be a whole nother system that comes down through Florida. A little bit of severe weather in the panhandle there. So it all depends on where this moisture is going to be pulled out of. If the more the moisture is getting pulled out of here, you're going to see more of a straight line, and then the turn is going to be here. But if the jet stream does its job, it's going to pull the moisture from the Gulf across Florida, which is unfortunate for Florida and Georgia. But what that does is that bows it out into the ocean and then kind of keeps the Northeast out of it, if that makes sense. So hopefully that's what happens for Northeast's sake, because we're going to be dealing with the 2 days of rain anyway. The last thing we need is for this to actually be flowing from here and come straight up and have a 3rd or 4th day of moisture. But I don't see that happening because by then we're going to be dealing with a whole nother low pressure system that's going to move into Texas, as you could see right there. So North Texas, come the 14th, is going to be the new hotspot. And this could be another one of those situations where we have to watch for tornadoes in Oklahoma and North Texas. So there's so much going on, guys. It's hard to keep track of it all. That's why when I do the live streams, I try to keep them onto one topic. But when you're looking at these charts, it's very hard to stick to one thing when you're seeing so many different things happen. I mean, you go from June 10th, this will take us all the way to the 26th. So we're talking 16 days of info here. After 5 days, a lot of it can change, but those first 5 days, you could pretty much rely on this is what's going to happen, and that includes the 14th in this low pressure system over the Great Lakes. So the Northeast is going to be a mess for a couple days. So that will give Texas a break, but just as this is ending, we're going to be dealing with something else in northern Texas, and it all comes from the west, guys. This is all coming from systems that are dropping or rolling off those islands in Alaska and then hitting Washington, Oregon, these areas, and then coming down over the Rockies and then hitting ground zero, like we call it, right over North Texas. And just these wind patterns, these different flows coming up, the Gulf flow, the west to east flow coming over the Baja, the systems coming down from here, they're always meeting right in this area unless we get a situation where the jet stream, like we have right now, dips down so far that it presses a storm straight north to south, which is what we saw today and throughout today. Once again, I'll show you again. Here it is. You can see this is the high pressure line right here. This is all a high pressure system. It's moving west to east, and the only place this has to go, because it's got this here, is to go straight down. So you see how the pressure there is pushing almost this comet-looking ball down into Texas and Oklahoma before that. So you see how this line right here is kind of like a buffer or like a pressure. This is the high pressure area, and it's squeezing this pressure that came down from Canada down right into Oklahoma and Texas. And then you watch it kind of move to the east a little bit. That's because as it escaped this high pressure, it naturally wants to swoop this way and up. But because we already have pressures in that area, it kind of stalls out, and then you see it straighten out again. And then because of the heat in Texas, boom, you get another explosion. Rather than it turning into Louisiana, it's staying within Texas. And then by coincidence, we have that system moving in from west to east over Mexico and then into Texas. So it's basically two separate systems that begin to merge into one right there. And that's what we're dealing with right now in Texas. So, oh man, what a breath that was. So it is still the same system, yes, technically. I mean, it never really breaks up. You could see it kind of separates itself from there before this one pops up. And it stays there. I mean, it does become one, unless you want to count this as the separate system. But once you go to radar scope, we are down to one flash flood area. That's a good thing. Let me hit play here. We'll check this area out again. And we're still safely to the east of San Antonio right now. And when I say that, I mean less severe than what you're seeing down by Eagle Pass, which was up by Del Rio and now is in Eagle Pass. And now you can see some of these storms are still shooting straight north, even with the system in Mexico brewing too. So very interesting stuff, and the amount of lightning is just unbelievable right now. You could check that out too. Yeah, this entire area is just getting completely lit up, and you can see that area by the border of Mexico that's adding to this. That's that second black chunk we're seeing, basically becoming one on the border of Mexico and Texas. And unfortunately, at this moment, this frame is the last frame I'm getting. So what I'm guessing here, because you're seeing this runoff here starting to move to the east, eventually this is going to expand down into southern Texas, and that will soon move in this direction as that high pressure lowers down. It's going to begin to force this stuff up, and then eventually that is why we're going to see the Northeast get hit with what we just looked at. So if I back this up again, you got the mess in Texas here. You got the very, very high pressure that's basically taking over a third of the country, forcing that storm downwards, with a separate flow coming through Mexico and Texas. And then once that high pressure starts hooking to the east, that's going to allow the system to move up and into the northeast. So it's all about the pressure systems, guys. And then you can see another low pressure right behind the high one with a high pressure pushing it across. So you can see these systems do not move on their own. They're always surrounded by one. Here's high pressure in the Atlantic, low pressure system just exiting Iowa as we get in towards the Great Lakes area, with another high pressure coming down from Canada, pushing it across. And in fact, if we move forward enough, that's the one that presses this thing right into the Great Lakes. So, followed by another one. So we can just go on days and days and days of just seeing this repeat cycle. And this is without a hurricane. So we're not expecting anything as far as hurricanes, at least in the near future. And we could take a look at that real quick, and then I was pretty much going to wrap this up. Let's see what we got in here for chat. All good if this is real. No, I live in Pennsylvania. Yeah, okay, so Pennsylvania, we're going to get rain. There's no doubt about it. As far as the severity of it, it's hard to tell at this point because the low pressure system has now moved into Canada. And like I said, when you get those low pressure systems, usually that is where the most severe part of the system is. So I'll back this up again. And you can see right here, the low pressure system has now moved way up into, way up into Canada. It was down here right over the Great Lakes, and it had these tight rings around it, which was pulling that moisture up through Pennsylvania and New York, flowing from the Atlantic Ocean on the East Coast rather than being pulled from the Gulf and straight up. So that's actually a good thing for us, bad thing for Canada, because now the Canadians have to deal with the low pressure and the strength with that. So, but just think about this for a second. The low pressure is this far up, and it's still pulling moisture all the way from the Gulf and from the Bahamas all the way up into the Northeast and in through Canada. So that is a strong low pressure system, and it's being pushed by a high pressure. As you can see, when you watch these lines here, they kind of morph to the shape of the moisture that's going up. So it's just a very good example of how these high pressures push the moisture out. You can see that right there, how that high pressure is moving across this part of the country, and then as it moves into it, this bows outwards. That's exactly what happens. The high pressures push out the lows. And again, going back into the Atlantic Ocean, same deal here. The high pressures push out the lows. And that's why we see stuff flow around the high pressures. You can see how they're moving in circles as opposed to moving through. You get this one that comes through once in a while, but they very rarely tend to form. They get eaten up quickly, just as you see there. That thing made it to about 10,017 in pressure before both these pressures ate that thing up, and it was gone. And then these two connect, and now we have a full pressure bubble with moisture coming off the west coast of Africa, following that line right along the equator, which like I said, is going to move up and kind of just be right next to the Leeward Islands. So any storm that comes off the west coast, boom, it's going to be following this trail. Depending on the high pressure, it could sneak up this way, or it's going to go through the Leeward Islands, and then we're going to have to deal with the southern Caribbean situation, and then we might have a shoot the gap storm. The pressure could release here, and we could have a storm move up north here. It doesn't matter with the land. It's all about the pressures in those areas. So hopefully I'm making some sort of sense with the highs and lows. Low pressure systems are the ones that bring you the rain and the snow, and they have the moisture. High pressure is dry. It pushes away those systems or controls them and is the reason they go where they go. Now, had there not been any high pressure systems, if all we had were low pressure systems, they would form and immediately just shoot to the North Pole. That's how the spin of the Earth works in the Northern Hemisphere. Pac-Man storms, yeah, I love it. Back room flooded, ponds overflowing, bummer, need new tarps. Carano, where are you? You're in Pennsylvania, right, Carano? And thank you, Carol. I just saw that comment you posted with the prayer hands. just to give you guys another idea of how there might be some lag here right now. No snow. Not right now, but there was snow in the central area of the country, and I just did not look up which state it was. But there was snow literally yesterday, and then it was about 80 degrees later on in the day. It's unbelievable. Pico's Hank. Who's that, Space Carnage? Who's Pico's Hank? How are you, Carol? That's how far behind we are. In fact, I'm just going to apologize for the lag real quick. There. I just hit sent on that message from Into Thin Air News, so we'll see how long it takes to pop up. Chikora is supposed to get hit hard. Yes, I did. I read about that. You're right. Let's see what else we got going on. Oh, this is what I wanted to check out here. All right, we'll look at this. Just to let you know, no tropical cyclones expected in the next 5 days. This is interesting, though, because they're saying that there's no tropical cyclones expected in the next 5 days here. But when we look at tropical tidbits, in fact, it's probably outside the 5-day range. That's why it's once we get to about, there it is, right there, about the 18th, so 8 days from now. So we're 3 days outside of that 5-day mark. So possibly within the next 3 days, we're going to see on this chart right here in the next 3 days, we're probably going to see one of our yellow circles with an X in it to give us a percentage of when this may or may not form into a hurricane. It is that time of year. I've expected to see more already than we already have, but this is actually the first I've seen of somewhat of a possible hurricane. You could see it gets to about 996 as a low pressure system, but once you get up past the Baja region, this water gets very cold, guys. So unless these things shoot out to the west very quickly towards Hawaii, that's usually the only time they have to survive. They will make it up past the Baja, which is just off screen here. Sometimes, but it's very rare. That's why California, it's very rare to see hurricanes in that area when it comes to the Pacific season. It has happened. They have had the remnants of hurricanes. You name it. It's happened before. Chances are it'll happen again, but I cannot say with certainty that this one's going to do it. It's early in the season, or about a month into the season, so it's not too early, but it's interesting to see that this is the first of the Pacific area to show the possibility of an invest or a tropical storm. So, all right, let's see what else we got. What else do we got? I want to check out this area here and just see what they're saying about it. All right, so the same area I have highlighted on radar scope is what they're showing as the flash flood zone for Texas. So again, I'm very surprised they don't have a severe box down here. It could be because it's entering another country and this app is either not allowed to. I mean, they're allowed to show the cells going on, so I would assume they could show the boxes, but this is some severe stuff right here. These are major storms right now, major lightning going on. And the flash flooding box is up here where it doesn't look as severe. They could be anticipating this. This is not looking fun here. These are some pretty dense cells. Each one of these lines, again, as I zoom in, is a storm cell. They're all individually named. This is cell J9. This looks like a very strong storm right here, V8, not the drink. This is 1:51 a.m. to 2:06. That's in about an hour. So you have about an hour to wait on that one. And then every line you see here, guys, is a separate. It just updated right there in front of you. Every one of these lines is a storm system. They're expecting to enter that area, as you can see here. Just keep an eye on it right there. That's what they're calling that cell. So it's not what's going on as you're watching it moving. It's what happens on that last frame right there. So this is why they're calling this cell B8, because on the last frame, this is what you're seeing here. So this cell is expected to get to this area, and then by 2:11 a.m., 2:26 a.m., it's going to start moving in this direction. That's what they're anticipating. So we are starting to see a west to east trend in this as you get more north here. But as these storms reach more south, they're still hooking and coming down to the south. Instead of going straight like we usually see them, they'll bend and head towards Louisiana. This one is showing that a little bit, but these ones down here by Mexico, they're shooting straight down. And that's what's interesting to me, because they're starting north and heading south. So there's something going on in this area where there's a lot of different wind patterns going on. Like I said, the west to east coming. You got the Gulf flow coming up. It could be a mix of that. It could be the fact that the jet stream just did something incredible and basically launched a storm within 18 hours all the way across the country down into southern Texas now. Took out parts of Dallas. Houston almost lucked out. I don't want to say that yet, only because, like I said, we got this going on right now. And it looks like that first part, the one that hit Dallas, it branched off to the east a little bit. You could see it kind of bent off to the east into Louisiana. And then after that, we had that other one that is combining with the one in Mexico. Hopefully this will dissipate and it'll eventually start moving this way, in my opinion. But still, like I said, some of those straight line storms are still shooting north to south back into Mexico. So you never know. This could be something where it comes down this way and then comes out to the Gulf. And that could be part of the reason why we're seeing what we're going to be seeing in Florida in the coming days. So here's a low pressure. This is what's going on now. And then we move across. And yeah, that looks like that's what's going to happen. You could see the storm in Texas dips down into Mexico and then goes into the Gulf. So that we were right about that. So what it's doing is the high pressure here is forcing that storm we just saw down into Texas. It's kind of pinning it here. It's mixing with a system that's coming in from the west over the Baja. And then this high pressure system is finally going to roll this way. And it's going to allow that moisture to roll down Texas and then eventually get to Florida. So we actually kind of figured it out on the fly here. So there it is. You see that low pressure? This is a low pressure here, high pressure here. And you're going to see the low pressure end up in Florida within a 24-hour period. The high pressure comes straight down, pinning it here. And now it's got nowhere else to go but this way. This is the only place it has to go because this high pressure is covering this entire area. It's pushing out this moisture too while pushing this down into the Gulf. And by the time that high pressure releases, it's going to have all the moisture into Florida. See how it lifts right there? And then boom, the moisture goes straight across Florida. And then those severe storms stay in Mexico. So that's weather 101 right there. I'm glad I got to show that to you guys. And then a separate low pressure shows up in Florida just as the high pressure extends out and pushes the northeast system out, followed by another one. So it's repeat and recycle. That's what we're seeing. And then I'm really concerned about this situation here come the 13th, which is in 3 days. Low pressure right over the Great Lakes. That's going to pull a lot of water into the northeast. And that's just something we're going to have to deal with. And then, again, while we're dealing with this in the Northeast, so I'll more than likely be covering this. But at the same time, this is tornado stuff here, guys. So this could easily become another round of what we saw through Oklahoma and the new Tornado Alley, which is actually to the west. It's either to the west of Tornado Alley or to the east these days. It's never in Tornado Alley. But this is concerning to me as well. So we have a lot to look out for over the coming days. And I just wish I had gotten this stream out a little sooner. I had a lot to do today. So But tomorrow will be different for sure. But that's what we got for now, guys. We have a lot to look out for, and it's not changing. Actually, let's check this out real quick. I just want to check out this from Mike's weather page here. Yeah, this is what's currently going over parts of middle of Florida. Like I said, north, about 100 miles north of Lake Okeechobee. So Florida is getting its share of weather. There's no doubt about it. But the main issue here right now is Texas and California. I was going to throw into this video, but that's going to be a separate one because I want to keep these separated as much as possible into topics. So we covered this. This is exactly what we're seeing on radar scope. No tropical invest expected. We'll probably see one there in the next 3 days. And here's a look of the next 5 days of rain that we should be seeing over the northeast. That high pressure is pushing it all the way across to the east. Nothing we can do about that except wait and kind of analyze. That's what we need to do. I was looking up high temperatures because I saw I wanted to find out the highest temperature marked for this day because we were at like 108 down by New Mexico and Arizona. Southern California was in the hundreds today. I was kind of just getting an idea of what the records were, but nothing came close to the record. The record for hottest temperature was 134 in California on July 10th, 1913. Death Valley. Oof. And then Arizona, 128, 53 degrees Celsius. Nevada, all these areas, all in the U.S. Highest temperatures in the U.S. are right in that area, right in that like four-corner California, Arizona, Nevada, and Mexico. And then Kansas is in there too. And then believe it or not, look at this. North Dakota had one of the highest temperatures ever in the United States on July 6, 1936, but then also broke a record with negative 60, which it's hit more than once. In February of 1936. In fact, it hit negative 60. Come on, when was it? Here we go. Well, it was negative 38 this past January, so it wasn't exactly close, but that was more towards Illinois. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. This is for another video. We're not going to get into this now. I was doing some research into they believe Mars, a meteor or an asteroid hit Mars, and we are actually getting the debris field from it. So that'll be for another video. I'll get into that as soon as I can. And just a reminder, for those of you that want to check into this crane collapsing even more, James Munder channel digs into this very deep. Very, very good video here. I would play it, but I told him I would just show the channel and mention that. So I highly suggest you go check that out. Mike's weather page we checked out. I think we covered everything here. And I think that's going to be it for this one, guys. We just got to keep an eye on Texas. We're going to show that one more time before we cut this. As you can see here, we can even watch on this chart. You could just see it shoot straight down. It kind of catches it right here, and boom. That was the Dallas crane fall, and now we're dealing with this right now. So, Texas, oh man, good luck tonight. That's all I got to say. Cali, yeah, Cali's hot right now, but they're going to be getting some rain soon, which is, it's going to get interesting there because we're going to be dealing with mudslides one day and then fires the next day. So, it's going to be, last year was the year of the fire. This past winter, they got drenched with rain, and now it looks like we're going back to fire temperatures. It's getting pretty windy. The Santa Ana winds begin. They swoop down from the mountains, and they just spread these fires like no other. Unless you've seen one in real life, like right in front of you, you wouldn't even watching videos of them, it's hard to believe. It's incredible. Yeah, in fact, mass destruction, reading your comment there, one particular video I saw is a lady, she's like, oh my God, that crane's going to go down, and then you see it sway back and forth one time, and this thing's huge, and it just goes boom, and you see it slice right through the building. It's like it didn't even, like, it didn't hit the top and stop. It sliced right through it. So I'm so surprised that there was so little injuries, and unfortunately the one death reported, which is always unfortunate. But with storms like these, guys, that's what happens. I mean, we saw this coming. I mean, it wasn't like there was no warning or anything. This storm was on the chart this big all day long, and once it got to that part of Dallas, Texas, I told you I saw pictures. It was this black wall that just came out of nowhere, and then they were talking about where was it? I had it on Google Earth. Georgetown. Yes, here we go. Georgetown. So it hit Dallas, and then it kind of blew up right here. And then there was a bunch of storm chasers in Georgetown, and they were putting out tweets and showing pictures. And you could literally see this black wall. It looked like it was right around here, and they were filming it from this direction facing north. And it was a tweet actually on Mike's weather page that I looked at, and there was like 50 of them just standing there filming this wall of blackness coming towards them. And now that wall of blackness is over them and consuming this entire area, including San Antonio. There's definitely San Antonio's involved in this. I just want to double check. Now it is, yes. I mean, just look at the size of this thing. This is incredible. I'm telling you, like I said before, you take this and you move it over here, it's covering 6 states, the size of this storm right now. And again, this is playing a part in it. You could see, even though the temperatures have changed, you could almost follow a line that comes down and then up. And that's this high pressure, and that's why you're seeing cold temperatures right here. This is a high pressure area, no low pressure for moisture. All high pressure pushing all the moisture this way, even pushing the heat this way. That's why the entire, basically, it's basically the center of the country to the west is cold, the southwest is warm, and then we're getting warmer temperatures in the northeast and the southeast states. But as this high pressure comes, like I said, it's going to bow out that moisture, and then we're going to get a couple nice days in the northeast while the west starts to get hot. So it's going to do a flip-flop. We're going to do the yin and the yang of it. So pretty sure we covered everything for today, guys. If you want to check out these articles on the cranes, here they are. Simply type in crane collapse and you will see everything you need to see. Not only that, but Dallas has been known over the last couple of years for their crane collapses. I mean, there's been one every year, it seems like, for the last 6 years. And I know that because I was going through YouTube videos looking at crane collapses in Dallas, and it looks like every single year there was at least one significant one. Also, we had that one in New York recently that happened. That was pretty bad. But there was a lot of them in Dallas, a whole lot, more than you would expect. So let's pull that off before we get in trouble for showing too many of those pictures. Covered this. We covered that, and then we got this, guys. So that's really all we got to talk about right now. We just got to make sure our friends in Texas are safe. We'll check radar scope one more time to see if there's anything, and they finally took off that last flash flooding because it looks like the base of this storm right now is more in Mexico than Texas, even though that black blob you see is in this area here. So, as soon as I end this stream, you may see these pop back up again. But again, this is radar scope for those of you that have it. You can access sites like this for free on the internet. I think I actually showed you one, unless I closed it out already, which I probably did. Yes, I did. But yes, you can follow these severe storm blocks and the flash flood blocks and the tornado blocks on other websites as well. It just gives you more of, you get more options when you have this actual app. You can, hone in on velocity, which is what you would look for in tornado situations. And let me just hit play here. Since there's no velocity being marked as far as tornado warnings, you're not going to see much here, but just for the sake of it, I'll show you what I mean. And there we go. It should load there. So Here is the radar center we are looking at. So you can see this purple ring around. Those are frequencies that just extend out. You can see the circle here. This is just the area that this particular radar covers. If you wanted to get a spot here, you would simply click this, and we could click this radar, and it would make this the center of the circle. So we just happen to be using this radar right now because that's where the brunt of this weather is. So I could take that away. But you can clearly see there's no velocity or anything of that nature that we're seeing right now. Some of this green actually could be. I might be eating my own words right now, but it goes away fairly quickly. And you can kind of see how this was the strongest part of the storm until we get to the last frame here, which is right there. We passed it. So you could see there was the potential for some velocity just southeast of Spotsford. But as we moved into, this is the most current frame, you could see there's not many areas that would show any sort of like a tornadic activity at this point. That could change. Right here would be that area to watch. The lighter the color, the more chance you would have of the velocity being higher. So that's usually what you see when you're in the velocity section. But I mostly stick to the base reflectivity section because that shows you the actual storm cells, and it kind of like lets you know what counties and towns to warn ahead of time. But just the lightning alone leads me to believe and shows me that these are very powerful storms, and they are certainly dumping a lot of rain and a lot of wind in these areas of Texas. In fact, what's this one named? I'm going to look this one up. Cell I-5. So that's a new cell that just popped up. So again, like I said, after I end this stream, you may see these blocks pop up, but it's going to happen. It's just the way it is with this situation and this storm going on in Texas. And then there's your lightning in Florida. So we're right. It does look like it's more parallel with Lake Okeechobee than above it, but it might be coming in this type of direction. So we're not too sure yet. And that would be for another video as well. But I think we're good here, guys. I'm going to check the chat real quick. Make sure you guys are good. Catherine, anytime, anytime. Thank you for being here. Top chat, beautiful. Everything seems to be working there. Yeah, mass destruction. Things have been very crazy lately. And in fact, one more time. Let's just see here. Yeah, this is moving west, or east rather. This is starting to come east. So I don't know if this one's playing catch up. This one updates one frame every, I'd say 10 minutes. So I feel like this the live lightning chart might give us more of an idea of where this is going before we could see it on this chart. But you can clearly see that this is starting to spread out into even Louisiana. So Louisiana, you're going to have rain tonight, at least in the southwest part of Louisiana. More than likely we'll cross the Gulf border here of Louisiana, and then if it moves quick enough, we're going to see this thing go right through Mississippi, Alabama, and then like we showed with Florida, we saw the lightning right here. Hopefully that goes over the area of Lake Okeechobee, goes out into the ocean, and then this high pressure situation here could push this all out into the ocean and away from us. But then we got to get ready for another round. So I mean, it's just going to be that way. That's what's, that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this, to at least let people know what to expect before it's actually on top of their heads. So I like doing that a little bit. But one more look. Here we go. This is it. You can see that we got a constant flow out into the Atlantic. Big mess in the west, or the east, getting ready to peak as this will roll up this way. We're going to see it hook up this way, and then you can see the line right here. This is that high pressure line that's going to push this all against the northeast, And if that high pressure bubble reforms again, it's going to pinch it against the northeast, and that's when things could get serious. So hopefully the pressure releases here. It allows this high pressure to push all this moisture out into the ocean. That's what we're going to hope for, and we'll know more about that tomorrow. So, all right, guys, with that said, I think we're going to end it here. I hope I got enough info out to you to where this actually made sense and you learned something. I know it was a little late. I'm going to try to get these up a little bit earlier. I'm still on those night hours. It's a drag, but I'm getting there. I'm getting better, waking up earlier, getting more stuff done during the day, and then we can get our live streams out a little sooner, maybe a little after 5 or 6 as people are getting home from work. So we're going to make that change shortly. But for those of you that joined tonight, thank you so much. Again, I hope we all learned something. I hope everyone in Texas stays safe tonight. I hope everyone in Oklahoma is safe after what happened there. And last but not least, we got to do this. Let's just see if we had any today, because I didn't even look. All right, so we had a bunch of expired. We're going to go back as far as a day ago. We're going to stick to today. So, capable, a confirmed tornado in Iowa today. So, we had one confirmed tornado in Iowa. Capable, a confirmed tornado in Texas today, about 8 hours ago. That makes sense. A funnel cloud was located near Liberty Hill, near Bittram in Texas. These are all due to that system we just watched launch down into Texas. So, with that said, like I said before, guys, this may not be over. You should keep an eye on this area, even though I will not be online to do it right now. This could produce severe weather enough to where we could be looking at severe blocks or tornado warnings. It's possible. I'm not saying it will happen, but those of you that live in South Texas, Southeast Texas, just stay on alert for tonight, please. I'm begging you. So that's what we got for right now, and that's how we're going to end it. So thank you guys so much. That was the one that hit us in Texas. Yeah, that makes sense then. That's the system that hit. So it must have been this right here. This situation, and then this is the one that kind of hit Dallas hard right there, and then with it, that definitely could have produced a tornado. So that may have been it. I'll do the time lineups tomorrow to make sure, and we'll verify that this was the actual cell that caused that tornado or those multiple tornadoes in Texas. So, but that looks a lot worse than those two did. All right, and I'm done rambling for tonight, guys. Thank you so much. We're going to end this now, and we'll be back tomorrow for sure with another live stream. If not, a detailed video on what went on today. Prayers to those in Texas that were hurt in the crane collapse. Very sorry to hear that. Very unfortunate. We got to be more prepared for oncoming weather, especially when we're leaving cranes up on buildings. I know it's not like an erector set, you just pull a couple screws apart and these things come undone. But I mean, when we know there's weather coming, we should not have these things erected up on top of high skyscraping buildings. It's logic. But with that said, love you all, and we will talk soon. Have a great night, guys. Thank you so much. Good night, or good early morning. Bye-bye.